Hello everyone, this is Charlotte and this is a podcast called Chatting in Cars. It's where I talk about random topics that I've probably picked up on YouTube or had a look for in other things. Basically today is Monday and we're going to get going with going to work. There's a disclaimer at the start of this podcast because I talk about sensitive topics. I swear a lot as well, unapologetically. Because I'm nearly 40 and who's going to tell me what to do, basically? So, no one tells me what to do. Probably because no one pays me properly. Alright, you're going to have to excuse my slight sniffy snuffly because for some reason one of my darling children at work has given me a sinus infection, it seems. I'm not particularly perturbed by it. To be honest, I'll work in heavy set plague anyway. I'm going to be working regardless. I have a choice, but I can't be asked, so I'm going to do it anyway. So I could take sick leave at this point. I have a contract, so I'm like, But I'm going to be working anyway. It just doesn't bother me. Same as I'll be training later in the gym with the flu anyway. So yeah. If you've listened to that podcast I did of working while sick, you'll understand why I work anyway. I think it was a very old one. It was a while ago. Anyway, the topic for today is karmics. Now, karmics come from the twin flame theory, which I've been looking at pretty heavily. It's only a recent one I picked up, to be honest, in the last couple of years. Before that, I was pretty much oblivious to anything, really, realistically, considering, my ex-husband didn't particularly like me looking into anything. You ever seen that part of Beauty and the Beast? Like the old school cartoon one, where Gaston's like, books, girls reading books, reading and thinking. Yeah, that was my ex-husband. Anyway, pretty much, he didn't like me thinking for myself. Because if you think for yourself particularly, you're going to start questioning what they do. He liked compliant women. I don't know if it was the Afrikaners thing about him. I don't know if it's a cultural thing. I don't know. But anyway, he was an arrogant piece of shit. Very much like Gaston, actually, by the end of it. So I'm going to ditch that arse. I'll never go back. He was a karmic, for sure. Karmics now are people, not necessarily bad people, but people that are they're introduced into your life to teach you about yourself, essentially. There is in the twin flame theory also your twin flame, which is a mirror image of you, which shows you shit you need to work on, but karmics are the ones that also teach you what you need to leave behind in order to progress on your life journey. These people generally treat you like shit. Generally, the main thing is. Or maybe, they don't treat you like shit, or, you just get stuck and bogged into these relationships. They might be the nicest, sweetest people. But if you're not working on things like standing on your own 2 feet, then you're, stagnating. For example, I was a karmic to my ex-boyfriend. I was doing too much nice stuff for him. As arrogant as it sounds. I was so wonderful. But no, I was doing too much. I wasn't letting him grow because I kept doing things like paying for him and treating him really, really nicely. And, what a bastard. But no, the thing was, he wasn't standing on his own 2 feet because he had someone constantly wiping his ass. I was doing his laundry and stuff. I was buying the groceries and stuff. He needed to stop relying on other people, and that was his lesson in that relationship. It's pretty much the same lesson for my ex-husband as well, because I was wiping his ass most of the time anyway. I'm that kind of a person, it seems. I keep going through the same cycle. Now, my lesson in both those relationships was to stand up for myself, and I did. So with the same principles appearing, obviously I didn't learn the lesson in my marriage, so I had to repeat it in my, the boyfriend that came afterwards. But I did, and I got better at it because I just narrowed that shit down right at the start near enough. About halfway through, actually, to be honest, I started picking up on shit that I'm like, I've done this before and I'm not doing it again, These people are sent to make you question whether you've learned previous lessons. It's like, how much do you value yourself? How much do you want to participate in this? Is this a cycle that you could live with again? That kind of thing. So if you've been cheated on, for example, you might be willing to enter another relationship with a different person who's likely to cheat on you. That's not saying that all people that you end up with are going to cheat on you. It's just that the universe is saying, this one has potential. Can you recognize the signs before you get too far into it? And luckily, you know, with my boyfriend that came after my ex-husband, because my ex-husband was non-monogamous, I picked up on the signals pretty fucking early, because I'm like, this is shady as shit. It's like, I've seen this before. And the person I was with is just denying it. You're sitting there going, you're catastrophizing, you're paranoid, and I'm sitting there going, why is there 2 toothbrushes in the bathroom? Why is there 2 piles of dirty sheets? It's like, what were you trying to hide in a hurry? It's like, why is there extra wine glasses sitting around the house? It looks like you've had a party or something. You know, it's like, what is going on? Why is there hair down the side of the couch? You know, all this extra shit. And he's denying. I'm sitting there going, bitch, I got evidence. And my radar is going the fuck off. So obviously, I let it run too far, because I should have stopped it, you know, right at the start, because there are a few things, like in his conduct, that I'm sitting there going, well, this just isn't kosher for me. I don't like this. I should have gone, right, this is this kind of person. I could stop this now and stop the whole game, right? Yeah, catch the snitch sort of thing, and just end it here. But in my ego, I'm sitting there going, if I just hang on a little bit longer, I can figure out what's going on here. And you know, there's a saying, I think it is it takes a while for the heart to catch up to what the mind already knows. You know, there is that saying, and you're sitting there and you want to believe that this person is a good thing, and your feelings are all invested in it. And of course, you know, being by North Node being Taurian this time around, I mean, I don't know if you believe in that, but I do. I'm supposed to be using logic to define the right partner for me in this life. With my ex-husband, I jumped in heart and soul. I didn't hesitate, I just went in and ran for it. With this ex-boyfriend, I was more hesitant because I had that, you know, I've been burnt. So you're like, oh, wait a minute, just give me a sec to deal with this. And the one that comes after my now ex-boyfriend is going to be interesting, because you've got like the hardest job of all. You've got to convince me logically that you're a good idea. Although I'm totally romantic, so I'm terrible, really. I'm going to jump in again probably. Oh God. Anyway, no. But that's the thing. I have to reason that, you know, is this the right person for me? I'm gonna have to really start looking logically at what I'm doing, rather than just jumping in head first and hoping for the best. Which makes sense. I mean, as you get older, you're less inclined to just risk shit and run with it, you know? Unless you're completely irresponsible and haven't grown up. It's a sign of maturity to be cautious, I should think. Maybe overly cautious in some things. Problem with being a hopeless romantic, really, isn't it? You just want to do it. It's like, I feel it, I'm going with it. It's like, no, dickhead. So many red flags. Pull back. So many red flags. And in the end, I came up with 76 of them. I'm like, fucking hell, how did I miss all these ones? Because I wanted it to work. And there is, of course, that kind of spellbound feeling to it. It's like you find this person and they're so bad, and it plays on all your past traumas. You're like, but it's familiar, so I'm going to go with it, right? This feels right. Does it feel right? And then you start questioning yourself, going, am I okay with the fact that there's some very fucking sus stuff going on? You know, like weird shit that you found around the house, and the fact that they never tell you anything, or if they do tell you anything, it's like a mission, and eventually it comes out because you've just goaded them on, or you've got them, or they've got drunk, and it comes out in pieces. Eventually, over the span of a couple of months, you're like, right, well, here's the real story. Eventually, after 6 months, you get the real story out of this person, and only because they can't, you know, control their own lives, they don't keep track of their own bullshit. So yeah, there's red flags for you. There's a whole bunch of shit. And I kept a diary, so even I had to go back and reflect on this shit. I'm going, what the fuck? But that's a karmic. It's there to teach you what you are and what you are not willing to tolerate in a relationship. And it's not just, you know, romantic relationships as well. It's friendships as well, business partners, financial situations. You can have a karmic financial situation, like you're running a business and the business doesn't work because you picked the wrong product to market or some shit like that. From that you go, okay, do I dig in deeper and keep going with it, or do I, you know, cut my losses and try something else? Chances are you might need to cut your losses and try something else, because obviously this isn't fucking working. And the more you dig your heels in and argue with the universe that you know what you're doing and let your ego speak for you, the more she's going to show you that you are fucking wrong. And that's how you end up with STDs and all kinds of fucking unwanted pregnancies and shit, because you dug your heels in. And she was right, and you didn't want to see it because you don't want to be wrong, and that's part of the human condition. No one wants to be wrong. And it's such a fragile, frail thing, the human ego, even though people are so fiercely guarded of it. It's like, I have to be right. So you don't have to be right. Where's your fluidity? Where's your adaptability? It's okay to be wrong. You're allowed to fail. Let it go. You're human. No, I have to be right. So it's like, oh, fuck off. And even the universe says, oh, fuck off in the end. And that's how you get your life dropped out the arse. She's like, I'm not investing in this asshole. Keeps fucking up. I'm taking everything. I'm taking all my shit and fucking off. Welcome to poverty. I don't know, man. It happened to me, so I can laugh about it because I was oblivious at the time. I wasn't arrogant about it, but I was oblivious. I thought, honestly, with my ex-husband and my marriage and my life as it was, 2018, that I knew what I was doing and it would be okay and we'd just plod along and carry on as we always did. But, obviously she had different plans. Obviously I wasn't growing in those circumstances. So yeah, she went, right, I'm taking everything, and I will start with taking what you value the most, and it was my ex-husband. And something in him clicked, where he suddenly needed that open marriage. And I'm like, I've known you for 16 years. I have never come across this with you in 16 years. Where has this come from? And it was the universe speaking, in a sense. I mean, even if it was like a dark worker on the side. And I'm going to do a podcast on enlightened dark workers. I will. I'll get around to it. But these dark workers that lure your lover away, they make them do things out of character that, you're just like, I can't believe this person did this. But it's still part of the universe speaking, because it's testing whether this should happen at all. And we take it with a grain of salt. Try not to hold a grudge, even though this is coming from a Taurus. Try not to hold a grudge. It's like, I'm going all out war with this. It's a lesson. It is a lesson. I mean, if the universe speaks and she says, this person is not your person, and you are ignoring that this person is not your person, I will find a way to get a chink in that armor, even if it means introducing someone else to the equation, to prove to you that this is not your person. And realistically, what I should have done is left my ex-husband in 2008. Before we even got married. We got married in 2011. It was 2011? Yeah. Christ, that's how, no, wait, hang on. 2011. Oh my God, that's how much I have healed that trauma. I don't even remember when I got married. I remember the date, I think, 1st of December. Yeah, anyway, that was our anniversary. But she will find a way to help you help yourself. And you have to be humble in this. If you rail against it, she's just gonna fight harder to prove that she's right. Because I tell you what, she's more stubborn than any Taurus I fucking know. She's going to be right, and she's going to make you do it. Now, she's the emotionally vested one. If you've listened to my not inner persons. Is it inner persons? Well, yeah, I suppose so. You got a glimpse of it there. You've got the universe, which is the universal mum. I call her the universal mum. She's like Gaia. She's all the personification of the female entities. As far as I can see, this is my belief system. You don't have to believe it. This is what I feel. Oh, that's a loaded statement. Then you've also got God. So you've got God and Goddess, obviously. The male equivalent and the female equivalent. Now, in biology, you need male and female to replicate. This is where my understanding of deities and divinity comes from. In a Judeo-Christian sense, they only seem to want to recognize the male entity. And that's the logical entity. Granted, he knows the morals, he knows the rules, he's created them as far as I can see, but it's the mum that gives you all the feeling, the abundance. She's the one, she's the first hand, maternal hand that touches you, and she helped with your conception. So don't forget that she's there. She's your mum, your original mum, not the biological thing you shot out after 9 months. It's like, that's one of them, but the main one put you in there. At great expense and cost and effort. So don't forget she's there. And then everybody turns around and goes, oh, I only recognize God. And it's like God's sitting there going, well, I only did half this job. So, people just forget. I don't know if they forget or if they get conditioned to believe that it's the only way. I don't know. It just doesn't seem to make sense that there would only be one half of the equation. You know, to me, it doesn't make sense. Anyway, so she's the initial carer for you. God will stand up and say, this is morally wrong and illogical. I'm intervening, of course, yes. But the mum is the first hand, and I'm a bit biased because I'm female. So, biologically female. So, if you're going on the esoteric terms, I've already biased in this account. If I was male, maybe it would be different. I'm already liable with all my hormones and feelings and stuff, chemically. But she's the one that wants the best for you. So, and bearing in mind, you got figures like Kali Ma, or Ma Kali. It's female figures that will fuck you up if you piss her off. She's not all softness and light. She's got that dark feminine in her as well. Now, she'll tell you up front, and try and do it subtly. She's always subtle at the start. I can tell you that for a fact, because I was very naive and soft when I was younger. Very, very soft. I was a doormat, definitely. And I just wanted nice things and fluffy things and things to happen and everyone to get along and stuff like that. I was always like that. It wasn't until, you know, I had my 33rd year life shooting out the arse crisis that things started to, you know, harden up and I became more conscious and mindful and things like that. So that was my major dark night of the soul, when I started waking up. In spiritual terms, lots of people have had it. It might be when most people face their midlife crisis. If you want to call it that, if it's, you know, a 3D experience. You go, oh, well, that's when I had my midlife crisis. Mine was at 33. Some people have it later. My dad's was about 40-something. My mum's, I don't know when, but, you know, everybody goes through a phase where you start questioning, did I make the right fucking decisions? Is this a life I need or want? Some people buy an expensive car. My life dropped out the arse. So, you know, it wasn't exactly what I hoped it would be, but I knew eventually it might be coming. I didn't think it would happen that early. I thought I had a few more years. Anyway, because I saw it happen to both my parents, and I'm like, all right, this is just part of life. But she's very, very soft at the start. She will give you hints, subtle, soft hints. She wants you to get it on your own. If you can pick it up quick on your own, you're set. Nip it in the bud and get it done. She will get progressively more aggressive with the signs, the synchronicities, the experiences that shows you this person is not your fucking person, or this experience is not for you, or you've led yourself through ego into a situation where you're not supposed to be. I mean, you're in the dark woods now and there's fucked up creepy trees hanging around, and now you're like, I don't remember parking my car here. And she's gonna go, doesn't this feel a bit scary? Shouldn't you leave? She's trying to help you in a soft, nice way. Now, if you completely ignore that shit and keep staggering on stubbornly, dragging your ass through the dirt, embarrassing her, embarrassing God, you know, all this shit, she's gonna get narky and she's gonna fucking turn on you, Kali Ma style. She'll cut your fucking head off. And that will come in the form of losing all your money, losing all your friends, losing your lover, losing any stability you've had, and she will really make you focus on what the fuck are you doing? Because clearly you're ignoring my hints. So if your life has ever dropped out the arse like mine did, yeah, you need to, you know, smack yourself on the wrist there because you fucked up. I fucked up. I don't mind fucking up. It's only through fucking up that we learn. But I was ignoring that this man was for me. I was following my ego into doing this doctorate, and I was being materialistic and chasing all this business and stuff without purpose. I was chasing this business, this money, because I wanted to give it to him, and he was not for me. He's not for me because, you know, clearly he was not loyal. He was not supportive, really. He didn't want me. He wanted what I could bring. He never bothered to know me. He never bothered to understand what I was going through. He was never supported, particularly above, you know, what he could get out of me, sort of thing. And at the moment that I left him, what he wanted was essentially infidelity in my eyes. Our morality didn't line up. But he was kind to, you know, trying to convince me that it should do it that way because it was just another control mechanism. And she saw that and she went, no. And bearing in mind, with each generation, we're breaking generational curses as well. So consider what was happening then was reflective of the controlling shit that my predecessors came through. Maybe my grandmother, who married for love, but went into poverty and then turned to alcoholism. Or maybe my mum that married a guy with Peter Pan syndrome and again went into poverty. My nanny who married essentially a fuckboy for his generation, and then he divorced her after cheating on her and shit like that. And it's that cycle. And you know, if you're a girl, and I do feel this is a bit biased, and I mean like a biological girl with the right chromosomes. I say right, there is no right or wrong, there's just right. This is fact. She's going to be more supportive of you as a female. I know it sounds a bit sexist, but you know, you've got God on the guy's side and universe on the girl's side. It's not a problem. Well, that's why we form alliances with the other sex, so we can, you know, cohabit and grow with each other. We're meant to be joining up this way, as far as I can see. That's how you get babies and stuff. If you're into that, I'm not particularly willing to have my own. I don't mind looking after other people's. Anyway, long story short. She saw the cycles my family went through, my girls went through in my family. And she said, I have a chance here if I push hard enough to break that cycle. And she broke it for me because she presented me with something that I couldn't step over and keep going with. And it was that, and this is my, you know, divine daddy God speaking as well. He put it in me that I can't accept infidelity. It doesn't matter how much you sugarcoat it or you twist it to try and suit your needs and say that you're polyamorous or you're, you know, whatever. You want to sugarcoat it, you want to cover it in glitter and say it's okay. But to me, it didn't feel right to participate in this. I'm not designed genetically, soul-wise, esoterically, in any kind of way to be accepting of that. Some people are, they're designed that way. I don't know what their purpose is in life, but to teach others what not to do, you know. But in me, it felt it would be painful to participate in this, and even the thought of it makes me feel sick. I'm just not designed that way. It feels wrong, like so wrong. And here they had a meeting of the minds. You had the universe step in and God step in and went, this is a point that she cannot ignore. This is the straw that will break the camel's back. Present it to her, you know. And it was a group presentation. Little bastards. But they were right. I couldn't. It wasn't something I could just overlook and say, oh, this is just him, or this is just how it has to be. It was something that was to the core wrong for me. And I said no. And that was the catalyst for change. That was everything that turned everything else upside down. Because it had a knock-on effect to everything else. That one, you know, it was a snap. When I can personify, I can feel it as a snap. You know when you snap like a plastic spoon, a white plastic spoon, you've been to any deli or takeaway place, you've got a plastic spoon, and you snap it, it has a particular sound and feeling to it. I suggest thoroughly, if you want to understand this more, go and find one. They're really cheap. You get one for free most days. But when I left him and I hugged him for the last time, and he said, I need you to take this week to go and figure out what you want. There was a distinct snap feeling, like internal, and it was like that. That's what it felt like. And I thought, you've done something here. If there was ever a spell or something, maybe, you know how I did mention before that I had tried to do love potions and shit. It wasn't love potions, it was like candle magic. Anyway, I was naughty, I was stupid, I was 17 and I was in love. Or at least I thought I was. Anyway, long story short, I'll do a podcast on that and why you shouldn't. If you're into that belief system. Talk about a loaded gun. But I must have either broken my own spell or something in the relationship snapped, something in the energy snapped. There was a very distinct snap, and it didn't feel anything after. It was numb. Maybe it was some kind of, you know, what a placebo effect. I don't know. It was just there. It was audible. I felt it in the energies. Gone. Okay, all right. Something's happened here. I knew I couldn't go back. I couldn't go back. I know he couldn't come back. I knew that it was done. And the universe will speak to you from day one, if this person isn't right, if you're not ignoring the red flags for the sake of trying to make it work because you think it's the right thing to do, even though the red flags are there, she'll speak to you. She wants to look after you. People get arrogant about that because we don't want to be told what to do. But if it's wrong, she'll point it out. I'm so sorry, I'm still sniffling here. I've got a sinus thing going on. I don't want you to hear that, but it's there. But, you know, and it will teach you humility and gratitude. I'm grateful for the lesson I learned from that. I've honed in my skills as a wife. I'm quite chuffed with that. Under those circumstances, and you know, I know that I can perform as a wife quite well, because, you know, if you find the right one, it's going to be a fucking breeze, right? You train when you're sick, you train when you're dying, you train when you're bleeding. So when it comes to the fight and, you know, there's no sick, dying, bleeding, you're going to kick ass. That's what you do. This is why we train when we feel like shit. So when we're well, we're going to fuck things up in a good way. But, you know, I was grateful for the skills I learned, for the patience I learned, for, you know, all these kind of extra little things that you don't understand until you get out of the situation. Because while you're in the situation, you don't see anything, you just see the job, don't you? When you're in the job, when you're on the job, you're in the job. But that's the thing, it's like get outside of it and you can actually identify, and it might take you time to sit down and actually write it down or draw a picture, but you can actually identify the things you gained from these horrible experiences. I got my freedom, that's the biggest thing. My freedom that came from just like another control mechanism. My parents were controlling growing up, and it lent me into entering relationships that were controlling as well. And when it came to the third relationship, so I had my parents, my ex-husband, and then my ex-boyfriend. When it came to that third relationship, I finally went, right, fuck it, no. And the power of being able to say no when your parents have beaten it out of you, and then your ex-husband plays on it, and then finally you get to stand up and you say, fuck no. That's incredible. The feeling you can get from actually being able to define what your reality is by saying, no, I'm not going to participate in this, is astounding. And people underestimate it, I think, because you're too busy, you know, trying to make things work. You know, it's insane. And that's the problem with being raised a people pleaser. You don't really get a say in what you do because you feel guilty essentially for saying no. And you don't want to say no because you don't want to be the asshole or you don't want to hurt someone's feelings. But essentially people will take you for a ride if you don't say no. You've got to start saying no. It's okay to say no. And that's how we create boundaries. So there's a lot of other ways that karmics can help you learn who you are. Not everyone you come across is going to be a karmic. Some people are soulmates. Some people are there to support you in your journey, absolutely. If you find that you've run into someone and you click somehow, chances are it's a soulmate. Chances are that you've been in a past life together. You've already lived together for a while. Maybe even you were married to them for a while. And you just know each other so much that when you actually recognize each other in this life, it's just a click. I have a strong feeling that my ex-husband might have been a soulmate in a past life, and my ex-boyfriend for that matter. When I was dating my ex-boyfriend, I started having dreams about, you know, being back in Dublin and things like that in the 1800s. I'm sitting there going, I had a bustle at one point. It was like, I remember this, I can feel this dreary, cold wetness. I can feel myself in that position, so we must have had something in a past life. Which is why it felt like I should be with him now at this point. I mean, that's part of the whole thing. But regardless of what went on in a past life, whatever happened in this life, it's not meshing and it's not working, so something went wrong. Maybe one of us has moved on and the other one doesn't want to move on or something like that. Someone hasn't broken the habits they need to break in order to progress. So, of course, I upgraded after I left, and I'm pretty sure he didn't. So, you know, and there's a sadness there because it's a repeated cycle for at least one of you. I don't feel sorry for leaving because I knew the circumstances I was leaving were not ideal. And those circumstances made him a karmic in these instances. He had the potential to not be a karmic. He had the potential to be a soulmate, but the fact that he chose to behave in particular ways that were non-conducive to a supportive relationship that makes you a karmic. You haven't learned the rules yet. You haven't learned to feel properly yet, or there's some other things you need to learn so you can progress a bit further. And maybe in the next life or in a couple of lives in the future, you might run into each other again and try again, but not this one. And the hardest part is accepting that, because you've still got that familiarity. You're like, I can still feel it, but the 3D and the person that's presented to me is not what I feel. And again, that helps you get stuck in relationships, because you're relying on that familiarity. Is like, I can feel that this should happen, or it should be here, and it's not there. And you see, don't rely too much on the feeling. Look at what they're doing. That's the trick. And that's just if you're looking at it from karmic, past life, reincarnation terms. And I do feel that there is a certain level of reincarnation going on, because there's too many coincidences. And feeling like I've been here before, or I've done this before, or, I know this person. I've known this person for years. And, I felt that way when I ran into the yoga guy. I'm going, I know this person. It's weird. I knew that guy John as well. I feel I know this guy John. It's like, how the fuck are you two stuck in these circumstances with these people? I don't understand this. The energy between these two. I'm sitting there going, you two fuckers are alien to this context. Why are you here? I mean, John for me was, he has a very fluid feel to him. He's not like a light worker or a dark worker. He's a fluid entity to me. I don't know what's going on there. He's something that I've not come across. But then again, I've only really been open to this for the last couple of years, so actually actively participating in it. Everything else was sort of like hints of it beforehand. And the yoga guy, I'm like, you are for sure a dark light worker. I can see you plain as day. I know what your totem is, for fuck's sake. I can see it. Which is why I call him bear. I'm like, in a past life, you had the totem bear. A big black fucking bear with flaming eyes. I can see it. It's like as clear as day. I don't know why. I mean, and these are the kind of people you'll run into in your lifetime. When you can read energies, you'll find these people. And I saw in that group a shitload of snakes. I'm going, why the fuck are you two here? It doesn't make sense. This is the weirdest experience. And it's not up front all the time. Sometimes you'll work into the energy. Sometimes you'll have to associate with them a bit longer, or interact with them a bit more, and you can feel what kinds of things are going on the inside, what's making them tick by what things they're doing. That's why they can trick you up front, and then after a couple of interactions, you go, oh shit, okay, back up. A prime example in celebrity terms for me is Meghan Markle. It's like the first interview, she had me. I'm like, okay, she's smart, she's in there. By the second interview, I'm like, there's some shady shit here. I don't feel this. Okay, and then it snowballed, and I'm like, okay, all right. Harry's been sucked in, but okay, all right. Anyway, carry on. This isn't my fight. But it's nice to be able to read people, because you can. Sorry, I'm going over speed bumps right now. But you can sort of get a gist of whether you should be there or not as well. Karmic lessons, for example. A lot of the girls in that group that I left, a lot of things that they were doing made me question my beliefs, and that's what it's supposed to do. These interactions are meant to help you question whether you should be in this group, whether you should be like these people, or if these like hold up with your values or anything like that. They're meant to. You can't fault them for doing what they're designed to do. I can't fault a dark worker for being a prick. It's what they're designed to do. I mean, even the devil is like designed to sort out the fuckwits from the good ones, isn't he? You can't fault him for doing what everyone's afraid of him. I'm like, he's just doing what he was made to do. It's like, why are we all angry with him? I don't know. Obviously he's a bit of a dick while he does it, but as long as you don't, pledge allegiance to him, you'll be fine. It's a stupid thing to do, Church of Satan shit. I mean, oh my God. I don't know where you thought that was going, honestly, because my ex-boyfriend was. And you know what, I swear, at the time, he's like, I'm thinking, you just signed up to this because you thought it was the cool thing to do, didn't you? You didn't know understanding of what the weight of your decisions are. Because he's an atheist. It's like, then why did you sign up to that? Because they're atheists. They're not atheists. You have to believe in God to believe in the devil, you fuckwit. Oh my God. You're a hypocrite, It's like, you just signed up to this because one of your dumb ex-girlfriends did, didn't you? You're not thinking for yourself. You wanted to belong, maybe to a goth group, because he was a goth at one point. So you signed up to something that seemed, oh, that's so metal, so cool, oh, it's Satanism. It's like, you have no fucking idea of the weight of your decisions, in any sense of the word, do you? And, you know, he's living a lifestyle that's predetermined by these fuckwits. It's like, oh, you know, hedonism and running around just fucking anything because you're getting what you want, and that's what you ask for, and it's heavy materialism and all this kind of shit that goes with it. Bearing in mind, you never actually get the full deal when you sign up for that shit. You never get the actual thing you asked for. There's always a debt to be paid because, you know, worshipping the devil is not the genuine article. It's not God. It's God created the devil, funny enough. But he created him to be a litmus paper for fuckwits. You got to test whether it's an acid or a base, right? Are they a good one or are they a fuckwit? All right. So while that fucker's running around in the 5D, 3D, running around committing atrocities, the question is, you know, common sense-wise, looking at what you're doing or what you're willing to participate, is it good? Is it for the greater good? What is the greater good? Obviously, I know, yes, cliche question there. But does it harm people? Does it harm them? And I'm not just physically harming, I'm talking about emotional and psychological harming. So while you're fucking around saying I'm, you know, whatever, churches say whatever, and you're fucking around getting, you know, snatched whenever you want it from whoever's saying, oh, this is free living or whatever the fuck they're touting it as. What is the psychological harm and damage that you're doing to these people and to yourself while you claim to be doing, you know, I'm just using my freedom. It's like your freedom should not impede on someone else's freedom. You know? Your pleasure should not hurt someone else. That's where you fuck up. That's why I never got into like BDSM and shit like that. I'm going, this is not healthy sex. This is playing on someone else's seriously traumatized background that they are finding pain sexually exciting. I grew up in a painful environment. To some degree, it can be exciting, but it shouldn't be. No, that's just abuse. So, you know, yeah, I can go into that conversation. That's a different one. But, you know, bondage, no. I don't do bondage. And when I look at people that do, I'm like, you don't know the damage you're doing. But okay. Okay, they'll figure it out eventually, I hope. That's not to say I'm a prude or anything like that. I thoroughly enjoy sex, but, you know, it's not to the point where it's hurting someone. You can't hurt someone and claim to love them. That's just convenience. It's trauma bonding. It's all kinds of extra shit that you just don't want to go into. Right, anyway, so karmics. It's not always a bad thing. Take it with a pinch of salt that it is a learning experience. Everyone on this planet is here to learn in one way or another, whether they're woken up. Don't even get me started on wokeism. Actually, I will do a podcast on that eventually, but, you know, I've got Piers Morgan in the back of my head shitting on everything that isn't his own beliefs. So, you know, I'm slightly annoyed by that guy at this point. It's like, I can see what you're trying to get at, but at the same time, you can't just dump on everyone and generalize. Anyway, so I will do a podcast on wokeism eventually. But, you know, you've got to be more aware of what's going on with the world. Not just in the 3D. You've got to look at the 5D, 5th dimension. I've yet to figure out what the 4th D is. It sounds like a band from the 60s. Anyway, where's the 4Ds? It's Motown. Yes, I love Motown. But yeah, just look after each other. You know, if you've listened to the other podcast, you already know what my beliefs with the purpose of life is. If you getting off on anything or interacting with anyone ruins or goes against my 4 principles, my 4 purposes of life, like look after the planet, look after the animals, look after each other, and look after yourself, in that order, then clearly you're hurting yourself, the ripple effect is going to be horrible. It's going to backfire. If your, life comes at the cost of someone else's or something else's, then it's not going to work, is it? I'm going to have to wind it up soon, I think, because I'm just pulling up to my school that I have to work at today. So even though you may be going through some horrible experiences, whether it's your work, your lover, your friends, your family members, I've had a few karmic family members, it's all a lesson. You're in one big school. It's a universal school. We're here to learn how to be more humane. And I don't mean humane in a 3D sense. I mean humane in a divine sense. We're supposed to refine our skills and our mindsets. And we're supposed to look after each other, essentially. And we're supposed to increase the quality of the world as a reflection of the Divine Mother and the Divine Father. We're supposed to be improving shit, not making it worse. If the person you are with is making your life worse, then you really need to start assessing whether they're worth keeping around, because you may be interacting with a karmic. Now, that's not to say everyone around you is going to piss on you, and you have to just go with it. And I've done one on unconditional love as well. Unconditional love doesn't hurt. It's not forced. If someone's saying that you have to do something because if you don't love me, then you can fuck them right off, because it's probably a karmic. It's like if someone's leading you into a drug den to go do opiates, and if you don't participate, then you're not cool or you're not part of our group, you can fuck them off, because they are a karmic. There is no need for that shit whatsoever. And you know it's destructive to your body and your vessel and your soul and all the other things that you've got going on and that you've built up. So you can actively just tell them to fuck off, because that is a karmic. And it gets to a point where at some point you might feel that you are absolutely surrounded by them. But you know what? They're cumulative. The only reason they are there in such mass is because you didn't start cutting the fuckers out. And you can also, acquire karmics by association as well. If you are a friend with one group or one person in a group and their friends form a group of karmics with the same habits, the same mindsets, the same way of fucking other people over, chances are that's how you got surrounded by them. If you dated a karmic and their life choices showed you that they are destructive, they are willing to tear themselves and others down, and you are willing to participate in those circumstances, then you are actively increasing your karmic debt, because you haven't said no. Essentially, you haven't stood up for yourself, you haven't walked away, you haven't said, this isn't for me and I won't participate and I won't perpetuate this. That's on you, I'm afraid. I'm sorry, but yeah, it is. That's you arguing with the universe. She's saying, these people are horrible. She's highlighting all the things they do and they do to you and do about you and backstabbing all this shit. And she's going, why are you doing something about this? This is horrible. Doesn't this hurt? Isn't this gross? Why aren't you doing something about it? And then you're going, no, it's okay. I don't judge. And you know how I feel about that fucking statement. Passing judgment podcast, off you go. But, it's just, you just let too much shit slide, you will get swamped by these fuckers. And it builds up. And you do have to harden up a little bit. You have to say, I'm not doing this doesn't align, I don't like this doesn't feel right for me. You have to stand up for yourself and be brave enough to walk the fuck away, even if it means collapsing absolutely everything. Because if you don't do it early in the relationship or early in the situation, you don't recognize these flags early, it will snowball into her making you walk away or getting kicked out or, all these extra things that you're not ready for. So you could do it early and prep for it and find a better way of doing things in a different area, or you could wait till she takes the reins and really get your asshole kicked. It's up to you. Bearing in mind, these are not bad people all the time. Some of them are fucking horrible if they're a dark worker. Yes, you are going to learn the hard way with that one. If it's a light worker, that's like the gentle breeze that suggests, hey, how about we don't take drugs today? It's like, hey, let's go and have an ice cream. Am I simplifying that too much? I don't know. I want to do that podcast. I think it would be a fun one. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there because I've got to go and look after someone else's kids. 30 to 1. I'm hoping you have a fantastic Monday. I'm going to do another one on the way back. And I hope you have a great Monday. Just take it easy. It's Moon Day. We don't know what's coming. If you're talking in esoteric tarot card terms, just take it easy, have a coffee, relax if you can, and I'll chat to you on the way back.